and just have a great time. Next week, by the way, we're going to look at a little bit about the future of DEI. So you're going to want to be around for that one.
I
So
like
we
that one.
will talk to you later, and everybody have a
Who's that?
great
Put your,
week and a wonderful holidays. Thank
put
you
your
all.
YouTube channel in the
Bob.
Merry
chat.
Christmas.
Hey, Bob. Bob, are you there?
They may
Coming
come
back
back
in
in just a
5,
minute.
4.
But Zach, put
3.
your YouTube channel in the
Okay.
chat.
We are back, but I have to bring in the Zoom call because I got a funny feeling they probably got some thoughts.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how they vote on these things. They're probably going, who are these communists on the
We
damn
gotta make
panel?
it fast. We only get
No.
Johnny.
Hey, Bob.
We got Johnny for
I
10 minutes.
actually agree with most of what Jeff said. Ford was very premature in his pardon. He should have waited and let it play out a little bit. And the worst part about it was that it enabled Jimmy Carter to get elected, who probably set up a nuclear war in the Middle East eventually. But you missed a major one, which was when Jimmy Carter came in and gave a blanket pardon to all of the draft dodgers from the Vietnam.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, we did.
And I was an Air Force captain. I was an Air Force captain at that time. They could have gone in the Peace Corps. They could have applied for conscientious objector status. No,
Yeah.
They simply flaunted the law. And I can tell you, it didn't do a whole lot for morale to have people who basically ran away.
Well, Steve, that I guess falls under the trying to heal the nation, I guess.
Yeah, it didn't heal.
If that happens, it's going to be very interesting because I can hear a lot of chanting going, my body, my choice, my body, my choice. I don't need to go because it's my body. I can see that chant having since now we're telling people what to do with their bodies.
We weren't that perverse then, but in any event, and then the other one that worries me, and it's only rumor right now, is preemptive pardoning. As you've probably heard rumors about that may happen from the current president. So,
all right, guys, who else
we got Zach. I want to know what Zach thinks. Zach, tell us, what are your thoughts?
I don't know much about this topic, which is why I wasn't on the panel today. But, from what I've heard from, recent events, if I can speak on that, I heard that Joe Biden, aside from him pardoning his son, Hunter Biden, which he shouldn't have done, I definitely disagree with that pardon, for example, but I hear he is actually going to be pardoning Adam Schiff, Cheney, and
that's what I was just referring to.
What was the other one? And Fauci, the biggest one right there. Yeah. So that's a no.
It's not even charges. And, so I don't understand, it's almost like an admission of guilt on, when the people haven't been charged yet. It's kind of ridiculous.
Exactly. Well, there's something fishy going on there.
All right, panel, want to comment on that?
Next one. Yeah. Oh, you want to comment?
Yeah, that's all right. Anybody want to comment on that? I know we kind of opened it up on the after show here.
Well, Johnny, what did you think? Since we got a little bit of time with Johnny, what did you think about that one?
Which one? The Joe Biden one?
Well, or the possibility of these preemptive pardons, before you even do anything.
Look,
that'd be pretty cool to have.
I understand why he wanted to pardon his son, but he just looks like the biggest idiot of all time for repeatedly saying, I'm not going to do it. And then the preemptive ones, it will do irreparable harm to the country because it is an admission of guilt. These people have to be held to account, but it hasn't happened yet, so really no need to talk about it.
So what about the January 6th people, you guys?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I commented on.
That should be a case by case, not blanket. But I could see that being looked at on a case by case basis. Mm-hmm. Who did exactly what at the Capitol?
Okay, how about Bill Russell? Bill Russell's in the house. What did you think, Bill?
Well, I agree with Steve's comments that there's case by case because there are certainly some of the J6ers that did absolutely commit violence, but the vast majority of them who have been in jail were admitted by the police into the Capitol, were there peacefully, and have been in jail for nothing other than that. I totally disagree with Jeff's comments on the Confederate pardons. One, it did genuinely lend to healing because there was big moves on the part of a lot of folks in the North to be very, very vindictive in the prosecutions of the Confederate soldiers. And the other part of that was the nation needed it because when you as the country expanded, there was a large number of Confederate soldiers ended up serving again in the Union Army in the West, in the Indian Wars, and it just did a great deal of healing for the nation to overcome the effects of that terrible fight. So
Well, a
it's
lot
great
of
from there.
part has been for when someone is getting close to death, usually for treason or something like that. In the J6ers, they did say it was an insurrection. Isn't that considered treason? Shouldn't everyone be ready to be hanged?
It was not an insurrection, but it was a protest.
Well, let's not go
Probably
there,
the
Jeff.
most peaceful
Yeah,
protest,
but
provided how many people were
it should
there.
be
Let's
case
not,
by
let's
case.
not go to the insurrection. Jeff, how would
I
you
apologize,
respond
guys. I've got to
to,
run. So you take
okay,
care.
Bill.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Bill. Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Bill.
Good meeting you.
So, Jeff, I just want you to respond to Bill, but Bill's already left, which is okay.
I get where he's coming from, and I think that reasonable people can disagree.
Yeah.
And we're also talking about, all of us are looking at this through a historic lens. None of us obviously were. But I think that not completing the Reconstruction caused the sort of open wound of the Civil War to fester for many more generations. I think it's similar to denazification after World War II, or the debath party of Iraq. To leave, to say, all good now, hideous ideology that we had to kill each other over, never mind, is it doesn't work that way.
I've never seen that. I at least, but then again, I wasn't living back then. As far as North versus South, I mean, other than the North always thinking the South was stupid, which actually, if you go back in history, the literacy rate in the North was far superior to the literacy rate in the South. Hell, the black soldiers in the North had a higher IQ than the soldiers, from the South, the white soldiers from the South. So there has a lot of differences, Jeff, but I think that kneeling was necessary. But I know I'm not supposed to give my opinion.
He gave his opinion. Oh my gosh.
Blanket pardon from Andrew Johnson was not the right way to do it. Okay. I'm not saying that it shouldn't have been, addressed, the bringing the nation back together properly. Right. I just think it was the wrong way to do it. And I think that Johnson did it in a disingenuous way. Obviously, I'm looking at that as a guy living in 2024 who read this shit in a book. I didn't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah,
so
and Johnson had his own issues.
Okay, so any more comments from the peanut gallery? Any more thoughts from the peanut gallery?
No, it was good.
How would y'all voted on those ones? Were voting like the panel on most of them?
Yeah.
Anybody for the Mark Rich one? No, I'm sure you're not.
Our thumbs were the same way as you guys.
What about the Nixon one, real quickly?
Premature. I agree with Jeff.
Premature is what Steve says. Zach, what do you think on the Nixon one, or do you know much about it?
I don't know enough about it, but from what I'm hearing, I would side with most of you that you've voted. I think you voted in favor of it, right?
Yeah, we're kind of split, a little bit of split on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to look more into it.
It got Jimmy Carter elected. That election caused, in historical retrospect, the Shah to fall and the mullahs to take over Iran. And that
if you were in the same situation and you had the information you had, that was the problem. You have to make decisions with the information you have. You can't go back and say, yeah, I knew that. And with the information you had, that was the best decision. It was a way to stop the problem and get the country moving forward rather than keep beating the past.
But as Jeff said,
there was no positive outtake for beating the past.
As Jeff said, they could have waited till it crystallized a little bit more. It might not.
But then he would have been impeached, and then he couldn't be.
Well, no, he wouldn't have been impeached. He was already out by then. No, see, remember the impeachment happened before he got out. He got out, and he couldn't be impeached then. He could have been tried. I mean, they could have brought him up on some kind of charges or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, but federal charges had been filed, and then things progressed. Just like Jeff said, at that point, that would be the time to consider it. But
yeah, I just like to have one of those blanket pardons, but it would help me more if the blanket pardon was for the future, as opposed to the last 11 years. If they did it for my next 11 years, that could be fun.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I do have a question. I do have a question. Or I want to kind of see what your all's thoughts on this are. But while Donald Trump was still president during his first term, he didn't pardon Assange, and I was actually surprised by that because my understanding is that Assange did a service for this country in exposing corruption, and I think he went to federal prison and he was released. Like just kind of, he spent years there, and he was just kind of recently released from that, wasn't he?
No, that's a good point. Not to mention Snowden.
Snowden
has not been pardoned yet.
Snowden
Chelsea
doesn't deserve a pardon.
Well, I won't argue with it, but Chelsea Manning got one, so why shouldn't Snowden?
Well, Chelsea Manning shouldn't have gotten one either.
Somebody else way. What about my man? He shouldn't have got one. What's this? Roger Stone. He shouldn't have got one.
Manafort, Stone,
Manafort. I agree. I agree. Should not have.
What about his father?
Manafort was violating FARA like crazy, but literally Stone, I don't necessarily agree with you on, but I definitely agree with you on Manafort. He shouldn't have been pardoned.
Well, that's great. Go.
Kushner too.
Christian father.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I saw about that one too. Well, no, we're just going to make him ambassador then.
And even like I said,
even
right.
Well, Bannon was picking the pockets of MAGA supporters.
Yes.
What?
Well, he's going to go to jail anyway. Bannon is about to go to jail because New York is about to fry his ass. So it's over for him.
He's rich and he's connected to the incoming administration.
Yeah. I agree with Jeff. I agree with Jeff. That's not going to happen.
I am so glad to hear all the agreement here on this show. I had no idea this was going to be such a fun show to do. And, because listen, anybody talks about pardons around us in the next few days, we have a way to talk to them about it. I mean, we do because we already know more than they do. That's what I love about this show and anybody watching. So if you're watching after the fact or whatever, please subscribe, thirdsideconvo.com. Thanks to video producer Joe Boy and his son, Tiberius Boy, who works with the timers. So if anybody has a problem with the time you're getting on, that you're being put for, talk to Tiberius. Exactly. Yeah, there's Joe Boy, our director, and all four of y'all that came on. I really appreciate it, and we will talk to y'all and see y'all next week on another episode of the Third Side Convo.